We're gonna start it now.
We'll
just keep it going.
Alright, hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Okay, first off, thank you for being willing to participate again in these conversations. I'm trying to tie in that TOK aspect. I'm trying to tie in that TOK aspect with IB Art, so these are more of those conversations. This will be the last day of conversations. I am going to give you a little bit of a homework assignment, and then the rest of the week and the next week after that, you're totally on your own, independent, working on your own individual art. Okay? Fair enough? Deal? Okay. Most of you did your homework except for John because he was not here. Yes. Shish, you got it last class period. So you're going to be kind of a little wrong on this. Do most of you have some opinions? I'm going to imagine yes, since you're very opinionated, educated people. Kind of? Willing to hear other sides though? Yes? Okay, so let's talk about goals. Goal for the day is that students are going to discover their own personal opinions on whether they can respect art that is made by assistants. Directions, you're going to discuss the opposing sides of the conversation around artwork that's made by assistants, and you're going to consider the perspective of your own opinion on what qualifies as art. And then one of the questions I want to ask you is, does the process of making art fit within that characteristic of what you qualify as art? Something to consider with this. And please discuss in your topics today artwork that was made during the Renaissance. I hope that you've read that article about having workshops where you had the master artists and you had all the assistants making artwork. You can consider that within your argument as well. Homework, later, I want you to interpret, evaluate, and reflect in your workbook about your own personal opinion on art made by assistants. Should galleries consider this as artwork? There's some gallery owners that will not take in art that's made by assistants. Is there criteria, such as having assistants as long as the artist is somewhat involved? Is that then qualified as art, or does it even matter if the artist is not involved whatsoever? Like the guy in the very first article, the art made in India, right? He's not really involved very much in that process. So is there criteria then? And then do you personally, I want you to reflect upon it personally, do you respect artwork that's made by assistants? In summary, we'll have discussed artwork made by assistants and whether they can personally respect this as quality art or even art themselves. Sound fair? Everyone know what's going on? Yes? Okay. I received all of the questions back from my friend who works for Solowit. And so I wanted to actually read them to you before we actually get started so you can kind of still think about it. Since he is an assistant, this is what he does. This is my Venice man. I wrote the questions up so that you're not confused as to what's going on. Okay, so my question for him was, what was your role in the creation of Solowit's work? And he said that he is a draftsman for the estate of Solowit. My job is to realize the ideas of the artist. He was an American conceptual artist who believed that the idea of art was more important than the object of art. Talked about conceptual art before, about how conceptual art is simply about the idea, not necessarily what it comes out to be. It's about the idea. The idea is the overarching thing.
But isn't he the only one who's able to get the idea of what he wants to do?
Ask that again.
Like, isn't he the only one to be able to get the idea of what he wants to do with his art? Like, how can we, as like seeing it from out of his mind, get exactly what he wants to do?
Or maybe his idea was to see how people would interpret what he was saying, because every person brings something different to the table. So maybe like that was all kind of part of his plan, or he took that into account that everyone was going to interpret his plans.
Wasn't Solowit give like really detailed guidelines from his assistants on the room? So it's not just like, well, you know, you should make some big things and it's like
It's very specific instructions.
It's like an architect almost, which is like I think the most basic argument I've heard so far for what justifies this. But sorry.
Okay. Next question, do you feel that you are personally involved in his artwork? And he said, I am involved in the execution of the wall drawings, one of which many phases of realization of Soul's ideas. Others include works on paper and sculptures, which he called structures. 3, do you ever feel cheated that your name is not on the work and rather Soul's? And he says, I've never felt cheated by executing wall drawings. It has been an honor to work in collaboration to bring these ideas to the public and in some cases private. The 4th question, what has it been like to work as an assistant for this artist? He says, working on wall drawings has changed my life and will never be the same as before. 5, how has it impacted your own work as an artist? After working on my first wall drawing in Cincinnati, my hometown, I had to rethink everything I thought I knew about art. It awakened me in a way I could not describe and set me on a path that I could not return. My work changed in the sense that my thinking about work changed. I see possibilities and can now manifest them on a much larger scale using multiple arts. Such an artist. 6. Has it changed the way you view art? What is your definition of what art actually is? And he says, yes and no. I have my own lens, but working for Soul has perhaps colored or created a filter for that lens. I believe in order to make good art, the artist must destroy function rather than apply function to objects or ideas. Art is made for art's sake. 7.
Does that
I know.
even answer the question?
No.
That's like what politicians do. We were just talking about this in
No.
our chance. Like, you don't.
Does having assistants to create artwork change the definition of art? And he says no, but it can be poorly done. 8, do you feel that art is coming back to the way it was in the Renaissance when master artists used assistants to create a painting? He says, I think it's the tradition that has lasted thousands of years across the world is human nature to come together. Even the most singular artist has others working in some capacity to bring that art to the public. And then the last question is personal versus group art. Is there a difference or is it still art? And he said that art can exist as long as the intention to make art exists. It matters little what it is, one person or many. In Soul's case, he came up with the ideas that were often borrowed and made them his own. It is very difficult to do it well. Such an artist. Okay, so I would like to hear your opinions on this topic, thinking about what is art to you? Is there is the process to make art something that we should consider as art? Do you personally respect artists that use assistants to make their artwork? Is there criteria?
This is heavy. It's harder to I think it's a lot of less defined in the anime one. That was easy, but
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I think it's actually a pretty easy question. Like, look at Chihuli's work. It's obviously beautiful. It's obviously artistic. It's obviously art. I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't matter whose name's on it or who hands touched it, but it's art, regardless of who made it or.
Is it Gail Chihuli's art?
I mean, I think so because it was his vision. Who else is going to come up with that?
Like who thinks like that? But
Yeah.
then on the other hand, what about the guy who goes to people in India and he's like, well, it would take me 20 years to be as good as him. Like I'm sure that's true.
Or
I'm sure
it
they were
just helps my
fantastic.
vision to not touch a paintbrush, just to order people around via mail.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even if he's past and are more skilled than him, it just seems like laziness.
Yeah, or I don't know, it's just kind of I might have this really amazing vision, but then just to tell Rachel what it is,
And
it's
make me, yeah. Like with Soul Luit, I really liked what I saw on Google, and I thought it was really cool, and it makes sense why he does it because they're such large scale that one person could literally not do that.
So is that some criteria there? It has
Well,
to be large?
Well,
no.
not necessarily, but maybe if it's a work that one person really could not complete alone.
But at the same time, all of those assistants, they were realizing his vision almost for him and doing all that really hard work of scribbling for hours. And I think they should get some sort of credit. Yeah, they did kind of sign themselves up because they took that
And they're,
job and they're paid for it. But it's only his name that's going on there, and you kind of think that maybe that artwork, because you can totally work as a team to create something, but there should be a name that represents all of the team that was working rather than
But if
just
Soul
one
Luit is
individual.
taking, if that name, he said he works for the state of Soul Luit, if that name is not taken as a personal name, but more like as it represents almost a firm.
Like
Yeah.
Team Rocket.
Yeah, like Team Rocket. Exactly, like Team Rocket.
Pokemon.
Oh my
Very
lord.
90s. What were you doing?
Sorry.
Not wearing
Doing Gotta
much
Catch 'Em
cooler,
All.
not watching Pokemon, obviously.
See, but Team Rocket isn't one person's name. It's not like
Exactly.
what's the main character's name. Oh god, and now we're back to anime. What?
So you think that there should be, so you should, or, so if I'm interpreting this correctly, do you feel that there should be a group, it should be like an entity, a foundation, a state,
It's-
versus just the name only? Like there, that should be some criteria?
Well, I don't know. It's different because these people like really signed themselves up for it, and he totally understands what position he has and is kind of behind that. So maybe with Soloit, it's like his name is sort of one of those representative measures. Like, and it was his idea too. You kind of have to give extra credit to the person who came up with the idea.
Sure.
So
What is what we're gonna
Well,
say?
I kind of was gonna come up with what Karen was saying, that even though the systems did create it and all that, it was Silhouette's his own idea, and he did leave very detailed explanations on how to do it. So it doesn't really matter who created it, because if any artist or any assistant could have created the same work, then the assistant who created it shouldn't be that important as to the artist who made it up, like Silhouette. So I guess what I'm saying is that many assistants could have created almost exactly the same piece, but it was only Silhouette's idea that created what was behind the piece.
yeah, it is sort of like with big fashion designers and stuff. They have people making the clothes for them, but it's the realization of their designs and their collection. And like with some of the beginning designers, they are making all their own stuff, but it's hard to be competitive in a market and stuff and create a whole collection unless you have people helping you realize these designs and looking at, but it is still under their name, or one designer is representing, like Karl Lagerfeld and Chanel, he's representing the whole house of Chanel, and it's his designs, but he has so many people helping him with the realization of those, and I consider those designs art.
So you're tying this to fashion.
Or
That's a nice correlation.
or if we tie it to music, I mean it's the same thing. Like what's the difference between like my favorite band, Atmosphere, which is comprised of the rapper Slug and the DJ Ant and the various people behind the music, like, all the different
Anyways, keep going.
all the different musicians.
Slug.
It's so cool. All the different musicians are represented in the name Atmosphere. That's a group name, but whereas Lil Wayne is just Lil Wayne, and everybody else that goes into the production of that music goes
Or
on
T
name.
Swift, like she
Or-
gets all the credit.
Yeah, or
for
Taylor
songs,
Swift gets
but
all
she
the,
doesn't
but like there's like
write.
30 guitarists up there.
Or
Maybe
writes
not
the
30,
lyrics,
but
I
like
think.
at least two.
To go off with music, I mean, if someone plays like a Beatles song, even if it's just on their guitar at home, then it's still John Lennon's work, right? But
And they're
it's-
realizing his idea, his music that he wrote. Yeah.
it's still their works, yeah. But I mean, that's also different because like John Lennon alone like wrote the music and then played it, so it's not totally.
Although didn't having some, I don't know if some of them have, like some of those great composers have, I don't know, some of them I feel like there's a point in the articles they talked about a couple of artists who physically cannot create their own
Like
work.
Dale Jewelry.
I don't know.
Like
the
the
Is
whole
he in
story.
a wheelchair?
Yeah, he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, but there's another artist in here. What's her name?
Oh, the woman.
Yeah,
who
so she had a stroke and
paralyzed?
couldn't do her own work, but she still has all these ideas milling around in her head, and of course she needs someone to get them out. And I think that some of those great composers, some of them had some performance, like